With the rate at which Apple was churning out their M series silicon, who would have thought they would somewhat hit a brick wall? But as it turns out, they seem to be struggling with building a Mac Pro workstation using their own Apple silicon. So, back in 2020 when Apple announced its Apple Silicon, they announced a roadmap to switch all their devices to Apple Silicon by 2022. And of course, that includes the Mac Pro workstation. But they seem to be having an issue with getting the right balance between cost and performance. So, it turns out that the M1 Ultra chip that ended up in the Mac Studio was originally designed to be used in the Mac Pro. Really, if you would ask me, I think the decision was the right move by Apple, but the move seems to be haunting them right now. But hey, it's Apple. I'm sure they'll figure something out. I just hope they don't discontinue the Mac Studio in the process because have you seen that beast? The Mac Studio is an absolute match made in heaven for anyone like me making videos for YouTube. Anyways, turns out Apple decided to use the dual chip M2 Ultra and a new quad chip M2 Extreme processors. So the M2 Ultra is supposed to have a 24-core CPU and a 76-core GPU, while the Extreme is supposed to have a 48-core CPU and a 152-core GPU. And they are both likely to support up to 192GB and 384GB of unified memory respectively, which is just mind-blowing if you'd ask me. But it turns out there's a lot of complexity involved, and of course, with complexity comes a rise in cost, which made Apple abandon the plan. The Mac Pro with M1 Extreme is estimated to cost around $10,000, making it a very niche device. And Apple does not think it's worth the development costs, engineering resources, and production bandwidth. So here's what I find funny though. The Intel-based Mac Pro that Apple still sells on their websites can be configured to cost as much as $50,000. See, if that doesn't scream niche, I don't know what does. Unless if, I don't know, Apple is feeling remorseful about charging consumers an arm and a leg to justify the cost of producing the Mac Pros. Don't tell me Apple of all companies, who sells an over-engineered monitor stand for $1,000, is suddenly feeling bad about charging consumers an arm and a leg for their top-of-the-line Mac. Anyways, the Mac Pro is designed for professionals in industries like cinema and video production, and these users also tend to require a high level of versatility and modularity that will allow them install things like add-in cards or advanced storage devices and other hardware. But the issue here is that an Apple Silicon desktop may not be able to offer that level of modularity, as Apple is trying to achieve a high level of integration with its SoCs. Now, the whole appeal of a Mac Pro is its modularity that allows users to upgrade it whenever they like, and if that is missing, it just might not be worth the hassle for pro consumers. But here is the thing, nobody knows if a Mac Pro based Apple Silicon will be upgradable or not. We're just going by the fact that Apple claimed the Mac Studio is a modular device, and yet it's not upgradable in any way or form after you bought it. Also, besides these challenges, Apple is also considering transferring the production and assembly of the Mac Pro from China to Vietnam. All this is an attempt to lower the cost of production, but don't expect to spend anything less than $10,000 on even the base model. Now, even though it's unclear when the new Mac Pro will drop, some analysts think that the M2 Ultra and the potential M2 Extreme processors may be available around 2023. It's been 3 years already since the current generation Mac Pro was released, and users have been longing for an updated version, particularly with an Apple Silicon. But it remains a mystery if Apple will announce a Mac Pro workstation featuring its own processors. Let me know your thoughts about this, and if you liked watching this video, I think you should see this one about my experience with the M1 Mac Studio right on the screen. Please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.